It is 8:02, so I think we've given folks long enough. I can hear Mike's coffee brewing as he rushes to get it done and get back here. And here's Jessica. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Daniel Libby. I am the founder and the Chief Executive Officer of Veterans Yoga Project, the 501c3 dedicated to supporting recovery and resilience among our veterans, families, and communities. I'd like to welcome you guys to our PTSD Awareness Month webinar series. This is the fourth, and today is PTSD Awareness Day. And these four webinars were designed to do that, right? To increase awareness of post-traumatic stress, to increase awareness of the symptoms, but also to increase awareness of the fact that there are ways through post-traumatic stress, and that there are treatments that work, and that there are many, many people who have made that transition from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth, right? Who have worked through that post-traumatic stress disorder and no longer meet criteria, and no longer have post-traumatic stress disorder. During week one, and all these videos again are available to you. Week one, we started with an introduction to trauma and post-traumatic stress. And the way we understood post-traumatic stress was not only in that clinical perspective, where we talk about the 4 symptom clusters of symptoms that happen after a trauma, but we introduced the idea of the space model, and the idea that all traumas are rooted in a lack of safety, a lack of predictability, and a lack of control. Every traumatic or stressful event you experience involves a lack of safety, a lack of a safe, predictable, and controllable environment, SPACE. Right? And we understand that trauma is defined by a lack of space, both externally. Right? The external part of the trauma is unsafe and unpredictable and controllable. What often happens at the time of a trauma is my own thoughts, my own behaviors, my own feelings in my body don't feel safe. They're not predictable and they're not controllable. And we understand post-traumatic stress, right, is what happens after a trauma. And one of the ways we can understand post-traumatic stress really is just a continuation of this lack of safety, predictability, and control. So when I'm dealing with symptoms of post-traumatic stress, the external world continues to feel unsafe to me. The external world continues to feel a little unpredictable. And the external world continues to feel uncontrollable. But what is sometimes more debilitating about the post-traumatic stress experience is the lack of a safe, predictable, and controllable internal environment. When we look at the symptom clusters, right, there's a lack of safety, predictability, and control in the mind. I have all these intrusive thoughts and images and memories, both when I'm awaking and when I'm asleep. Right? We understand that there's a lack of safety, predictability, and control in the body. Right? All of a sudden, my heart starts pounding, I start breathing heavy, I start sweating. And so we can understand the post-traumatic stress experience is one where the external world and my internal world continue to feel a lack of safety, a lack of predictability, and a lack of control. And so that was week one. And then week two, what we did is we brought Jessica and Mike in, and we had them talk a little bit about the stressful and traumatic experiences that they've experienced while serving in the military, both in combat and not, and understanding some of those experiences, again, through that lens of safety, predictability, and control. Week three, last week, we had Dr. Gail Parker here, and she had us learn a little bit about racial and ethnic-based discrimination and trauma, and understanding that even for those of us who are not in the minority, right, that we have our own work to do, and that racial and ethnic trauma and stress is not something experienced necessarily just by those who are, quote, in the minority, but is something that that we all get to work on. And so here we are at week 4 of our webinar series. And today we've brought Mike and Jessica back, and we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about post-traumatic growth. And we'll include yoga's role in recovery and yoga's role in post-traumatic growth. Let me start by saying that this is not a way to ignore or avoid or dismiss the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, right? We don't look at the symptoms of post-traumatic growth with a Pollyanna kind of like, hey, we just have to look at the sunny side of life and everything's going to be okay, right? That's not really the way it works. Post-traumatic stress symptoms are real and they're debilitating. But what we know is that post-traumatic stress isn't the only outcome of a traumatic event. What we know is that post-traumatic growth also happens after traumas. We know that for most people, right, these things can happen at the same time. I can have symptoms of post-traumatic stress and have, quote, symptoms of post-traumatic growth at the same time. And many people who experience trauma have that experience. So we can look at this sort of as, right, there are both aspects happening after a trauma. And another way that we sometimes understand, post-traumatic growth is sort of on a continuum where we're somebody who's dealing with the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, who might have post-traumatic stress disorder, will move their way through their symptoms, right? Getting treatments, using yoga, using therapy, and get to a place where they're now living in sort of with mission and purpose and curiosity and playfulness, right? And the things that we understand as post-traumatic growth. And so today I'm very happy to welcome back Mike Ergo and Jessica Bugbee. And I'm going to turn it over to you two guys to introduce yourself. Before I do that, I do want to remind you that this is our campaign to increase awareness of post-traumatic stress and the treatments that are available. And it's also an opportunity to increase awareness for the fact that post-traumatic stress is something that is really benefited by the practice of yoga, and that there is an amazing organization called Veterans Yoga Project that is doing really good work to help enhance recovery and resilience among our veterans, families, and communities, and that we're a nonprofit that relies on, your donations. So for those of you who have made those donations, I've seen many of you have signed up to become monthly donors. Thank you so much. It really does make a difference. So with that, I will then pass the baton over to Mike and Jessica. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Thank you, Dan. And good morning, Jessica.
I'm not sure what Jessica's got going on there, but definitely looks like post-traumatic growth to me.
Yeah. Well, I have the consequences of post-traumatic growth, or some of them, for people with my skin tone. It's a big old sunburn. So let's just acknowledge that up front, all right?
So if you guys
Jessica, we got you.
So you guys, there are a few folks on the call today who weren't with us 2 weeks ago. So if you would just start out by introducing yourselves, et cetera, maybe a little bit about your story.
Let's do that. Mike, how about you're up first, dude?
Okay, cool. Yeah, my name's Mike Ergo, and I served in the United States Marine Corps from 2001 until 2005, and I deployed to Iraq twice. The second deployment was pretty heavy, extensive urban combat, and my unit lost about 21 at that time, including my best friend. So I came back and got out of the Marine Corps and continued my life by going to college, but was wandering around kind of aimless, and took the route of numbing my symptoms and my experience with alcohol and cannabis, some pills, a little dabble in cocaine. So, all the fun stuff. And came to the point where my life was falling apart, and I got married a couple years after I gotten out, and my wife had enough. She said she loved me, but I had to choose. And I got sober in 2012, which for me was a really good decision. And I had to figure out, now what do I do? Now that I feel these feelings, I got to do something with them. So my first route was running, swimming, then biking, then triathlon. And then in that middle of that journey, I found yoga and found my breath, and found the ability to hold my feelings and what that meant, to give space to those things, and just found what I valued. Look at that. How many of those things I was living in accordance with? Was I living within my values? And then marking that growth by saying, okay, I'm doing this now, and I'm doing this. This is important to me. and just feeling a lightness. But like Dan said, it was not a straight up journey, more like a stock chart. It was trending up, but there's a lot of ups and downs. So, and then just professionally, I found purpose besides my athletic pursuits that involved running for fallen military members and Gold Star families. I found purpose in helping other veterans. So I'm a therapist at the VA vet centers, and yeah, that's what I'm up to today.
Cool. Well, we'll get more into all of that momentarily. Thanks for covering for me. I started pouring, and we were all set. We did show up 30 minutes early, guys, and just in good fashion, civilian fashion. You got up to go get coffee, and then I got up, and it looked like we were not prepared, but we were. Yeah. So I'm Jessica Bugby, and I am an Army combat veteran. I served for 7 years active duty. 6 of those were with the regular Army, and then 1 year I served with the reserves, and that was an active duty tour. And the reserves is a much different beast than the regular Army. The regular forces has that that hazing towards the National Guard and the reserves, but I tell you, they really got their work cut out for them. I mean, they're only there 1 weekend a month, but they've got to do everything in that 1 weekend a month that we have to do, the regular military, and every day basically. So that's a lot, and that was just a lot of responsibility. But I served from 2005 to with my drill time and everything. I got out in 2013. I went to Iraq for 15 months with the 82nd Airborne Division. I was a combat medic, and I went to Afghanistan for 365 days with the 10th Mountain Division. I was deployed with and attached essentially with field artillery units, both deployments. I had many jobs, but I was really good at my job in the military, and I found a lot of purpose in that job. In the military, I felt like I was really proud of myself. Before joining the military, I was a little lost, and I just took it very seriously, and I loved it, but it was also very stressful for me, very, very stressful for me. And when I left, I thought I had a plan, but I didn't. I was married at the time, and actually I was getting a divorce to a military member. And then I was also involved with someone who was still in the military, and he ended up retiring from the military. He was also a combat veteran. And we did end up marrying as well. I ended up struggling as well, like you did, just not wanting to feel emotion my entire life. And so I struggled with substance use abuse, and, with that, once I ended up finally getting sober, thankfully, after, trying so many different things, I tried to get help for, just many things in life. I thought that I was essentially, I thought that I was, I could help other people basically in order to get help for myself. And that just didn't work until I, finally looked into the mirror and was like, okay, it's time for me to really, accept what's happening here. So I did. And once I did that, it was, I had to change everything in my life. And that was really a hard pill to swallow. It took a lot. And I ended up finding my community. I ended up finding like my new tribe. And with that, like you, I ended up finding yoga, but come to, think about it, once I actually was shown what the definition of yoga was, right? Union, to, yoke, to bring the body, the mind, and the breath, to one. It's like, wow, I really actually had yoga way long ago. And some places that I had it, particularly in the military, was in Afghanistan. I was extremely stressed out. I was a staff sergeant at the time, and I was in charge of 3 different combat outposts in that field artillery unit, which was not heard of a female being in charge. And I was just always scrutinized. And it was towards the end of deployment, so I was very tired, burned out, like ready to go home. I also had my, at the time, he was still my husband, but there was domestic violence involved, and we were in the same battalion, and he was at another battalion, in another combat outpost, but there was still stressors from that, and then of course just stressors of being in combat. The stressors of all your subordinates, like we talked about it in the second webinar, that even though I myself don't have children, and that family at home, wondering when I'm coming home, wondering what's going on, the bills that have to get paid, the kids in school and whatnot that are missing me, I had their issues, right? And of course I still have my parents, right, and my friends too. But I also was struggling with some health issues that I was, not telling anybody else about too. And I was communicating just with the physician assistant, of course, anxiety, right, and some depression, and being one of 3 female among 500 men. So that sucked. I thought I wanted to be Superwoman, but yeah, no, I'm cool with like women now. I love you, Mike, but you don't think about like, what am I going to do when I have to go to the bathroom or I have my period and like I'm out in the middle of the like field, like how do I do that? But anyways, what I would do in the middle of the night, I literally thought I wasn't going to wake up, and I didn't know if I'd like make it the next night. And so I did this practice, and do you mind if I show you and like demonstrate?
Please.
And
yes.
Awesome. And if you guys would like, I'd love for you to participate with me. And I'm so sorry that I keep going in and out of visibility, but you really don't need to see me to practice. So wherever you are, if you're sitting on your couch, Mike, you're in your chair there, just notice where you are, and go ahead and bring your one hand to your belly and then one hand across your chest to your heart. And most of the time my eyes were open because, like I said, I was just so fearful. But if you feel comfortable, safe, then you can close your eyes. And I would even bring that hand across up to the shoulder and like hug myself almost. And I would just breathe. I would just feel my body breathe into my arms. So we can all breathe together here. So inhale through your nose, inhale. Exhale out. And we'll do it again together. Inhale through the nose, inhale. Exhale out. Just another time together. Inhale through the nose, inhale. And then exhale out gently. And you can just slowly stay there if you want and just allow your breath to just come back to its natural rhythm if I sped it up a bit. But Mike, if you want, you can stay there and I'll just slowly wrap up. But, you know, when I found yoga and found my mat, I actually didn't find it through the physical practice. I found it through transcendental meditation. And as I mentioned, you know, I started learning what the philosophy of yoga was prior to the actual physical practice. And transcendental meditation is based on a mantra practice. And if you're still here holding yourself, or if you've left that, if you'd like, I'll also show you and demonstrate another practice. And I didn't do this when I was in the Army, but this was the very first practice that I learned. And what it helped me do was it helped me to slow my mind. And so I won't teach you transcendental meditation because I'm not a facilitator of that, but mantra meditation is very similar. And again, if you would like, just come to stillness wherever you're seated, and then you can place your hands on your thighs unless they're still at your belly or across your chest, and we'll just repeat a word. So how about today, let's just repeat the word love. And so we'll just repeat it quietly, silently. And rather, we'll make it into I am love. 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 And we'll just do that another couple times. And so you can just allow that to kind of fade away and soften, and maybe you've found some semblance of peace, and if so, that's awesome, and I'm grateful, and I hope you are too. And then let's all come back and thank you. Yeah, Mike's stretching out. Yeah, he's getting ready to change gears and put on the tight shorts and hop on the bike.
Jessica, that was really nice. Thank you for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I really, you know, you mentioned that, you know, you didn't want to feel the emotions. And I too, I didn't want to feel the emotions, because when I was in my, you know, I'll say at the height of my, you know, my like illness, post-traumatic stress, it was anger that was always coming out. You know, I was lashing out anytime I was confronted on anything. I felt like I was like being pushed in a corner, and I would just, you know, I mean, I became this perpetrator, like the person that I never thought that I would ever become. I became the abuser, quite literally, you know, I mean, and I'm not ashamed of that anymore, because as much as I wish that that wasn't a part of my story, like it is though, you know, and if I denied it, then I wouldn't be healing, and I wouldn't grow, and I wouldn't be in service, you know, and I couldn't do what I like feel my dharma called to do. And anyhow, meditation, like that mantra practice, that was accessible to me. And as I mentioned, transcendental meditation is a little bit different, different principle, but I was taught by the VA. It's expensive on the outside, and the VA, you know, pays for you to go. There's a partnership with them, and it helps to just soften the voice, you know?
Yeah.
And I started to like even apply that when I get ready in the morning. I turn on the mirror, you know, or turn on the light and actually look at myself.
Mm.
I don't know about you, but I didn't do that for a long time. And
Same. Can I ask you, Jessica, about we both experience shame, and we both experience guilt, you know, survivor's guilt. You know, guilt is guilt and shame is shame from whatever source. And the ability, like you said, to let go of that and accept that your experience includes things just like mine that each of us are not proud of, but we wouldn't change because it got us here. It's a difficult mindset to have. How did you go from having the guilt and the shame to accepting that part of yourself and making space for it?
Well, so it started by you know, a lot of people don't, I think, talk about some of this stuff, but when I was also, you know, really struggling, first, I weighed almost 200 pounds. I weighed 197 pounds. So I ate poorly, like I was eating my emotions, right? I drank so much. I was so depressed, so I would like sleep all the time, right? You know, I didn't care about myself. So it really did for me. I went through a health coaching program. We were just talking about that before. And I started learning about diet, nutrition. I slowly, at a sustainable, I made changes sustainably. That's the thing. Is it didn't happen overnight, you know? I educated myself. I went to the NAMI Homefront course, which taught me about my disease, you know, and it taught me that like I can make these internal changes, you know, it's me that has to do the work, but I don't have to do it alone. So, but for me, I'm a real stubborn person. I'm a Taurus.
Yes, I'll high five you to that. Boom.
High five. And I had to find community, you know, I really had to find community. I had to find a place that I wanted to do it, like nature, you know, I had to move my body because again, for me, like running, I love to do that. And I cried a lot on my yoga mat. I mean, I would have these like, so the physical practice was really something that, you know, got me to, started to actually feel my body, you know, because I was so outside of my body. Yes. I don't know about you. How about you?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Jessica, because I did not feel safe in my body. The brief stints of sobriety that I had, and I'm talking hours within the course of years, I would be walking down my stairs, for example, and then go limp with just sheer terror. And maybe later I'd flash back to, oh, this was related to a time I was stuck in a house and stuck going down some stairs. at the time just felt like terror. And then I thought about the friends I'd lost, and then survivor's guilt. So there was nothing attractive about feeling feelings. So when I stopped, drinking, smoking, using drugs and everything, I needed a way to feel safe in my body. And the first time I felt that really was running, and I was turning a corner. I still remember exactly where it was. And I noticed that I felt all right. Like I felt okay being in my skin, in my body. And I'm like, I'm not even high right now. I feel okay. And then I was like, there has to be other ways, to feel okay and do that. Cause I can't run every hour of the day,
Oh, come on.
so finding other sustainable ways too. And the sustainable changes, I've tried the extreme ways. I was like, okay, I'm fat, so let's go, I don't know, eat everything paleo and clean, or just whatever definition, right? But do it extreme. Same with working out. Work out as hard as possible and then get hurt, and then it would be put off to the next time I can work out. So the sustainable change was it. But the journey seems so overwhelming, because for me, and I'd like to hear about you too, I looked at where I wanted to be once I finally was able to say, okay, this is my ideal self that I would like to be, and here's where I am now. It seems so far away. I wanted to just get there as fast as possible, and I would get overwhelmed by how much I would have to do. And then the ability that I found through yoga and meditation, be able to come right back to right now and be like, okay, I'm actually right here. What choice do I have now? And it could be like, I don't know, fruit salad or, bear claw and donut. Let's make that decision right now. Let's make that decision. I'm right here.
Yeah.
The one thing I found through meditation, which I found yoga afterwards, was training for a specific endurance event. And I was still having symptoms of PTSD, like sheer terror and panic attacks. I'd be literally paralyzed with fear and breathing, and thought I was going to have a heart attack and die. I didn't know what was happening. I just thought I was dying. And I was training up for this 24-hour endurance challenge, where it's this Army SF guys lead you around carrying logs, doing all kinds of miserable things based on their selection process for, Green Berets. And I was having panic attacks about it. Well, my civilian friends were like, oh, I'm looking forward to this, in this sick endurance community kind of way.
Yeah.
So I was meditating on it, and just meditating and giving myself space. And this, one of the few times I've had a big epiphany during meditation, but it happened right there. It just kind of bubbled up and went pop. And I felt, or I heard this voice that was mine say, what you're experiencing is just leftover war stuff. I wasn't dreading this endurance event. I mean, I could quit. No one was going to get shot at. No one's going to die. Everyone's going to be okay. It's a voluntary thing. I'm not stuck there. And I was like, once I could do that, it didn't make all the PTSD stuff go away. But I could say, oh, that's something that's residue. That's residue. That's a scar. That's a wound that's healing, but that's residue. I'm right here, right now. So I can make a little space for that to be there. And so it didn't just keep ramping up.
Yeah. So some scars, Sanskrit word, these like patterns, that we like have, and, our bodies, these, and these stories that we tell that we tell ourselves as well. It's really interesting. And, the body keeps the score. I'm sure you've read that. Our bodies hold, our tissues hold the stressors, that, a dog, like, for instance, like shakes after, they like play, or after they get into a little, like, like bark off with each other or something, and then they shake and their stress is gone. And we don't do that, I have, one of my service connections is TMJ disorder. I just like clench my teeth at night, I was like, and I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't talk to me. Oh, it's, and then also there's headaches too that I have, right? Like you look at my service connection sheet and it's like, how old is she? 80? No, she's 40. She's 40. Oh, okay. But yeah, and it's interesting, right? So like yoga nidra can help with us releasing these chronic pains and these, these like injuries, these things that we hold on to in our body. But a practice that that I use, it's a practice called the here and now. And I don't think that I'll do it here, but it's something that that we have in our, so I what's the word? You have to excuse me. I have brain fog from being a long hauler of COVID and having lupus.
Ooh.
So sometimes my words are like,
It's okay. If you want, I could lead just a quick exercise that I like doing.
Oh,
while you're
good.
thinking of it.
Dan said co-leader. Thank you, Dan. I was the co-leader of Tribe. I co-founded a nonprofit called Tribe, and one of the teachings that we have is called the here and now. And essentially, what we do is you can practice it with one other person or by yourself. And essentially, if you're going through something, you can speak what you're going through, the emotion or the physical sensations, and you describe them to the other person. So for you, for instance, right, you would explain what your anxiety is actually feeling in the physical body to me, right, in that moment. And so we would kind of go through what your anxiety is actually feeling like. And so maybe you would get more information, right?
Yeah. It's so amazing how, because I've done things very similar, if not the exact same. Just being able to name something that you are experiencing gives you a little bit of distance from it.
Exactly.
Like I go from the person I was walking down the stairs, collapsing in fear,
right,
to, oh, in this body, there's, I don't know, like flightiness, like butterflies in my chest. And there's a twisting sensation in my intestines. And then I'm observing it. And then I recognize, oh, I'm not just my feelings. They're a part of me. It's a huge shift. And I didn't understand that concept before. It was just madness, loud sounds, both from memories and external environments, and chaos and confusion. And I didn't like it.
Yeah, exactly. And to really bring in all your senses when when you're having that emotion to like really ground you in that, where you are in the present moment as well.
Yes.
Yeah, to bring you current.
Yeah.
So what was your practice?
It was yoga nidra. Yeah, it was yoga nidra for a while. And I mean, you can probably explain it better than me, but beyond that, it was simple mindfulness meditation. And those words get conflated and confused a lot. Mindfulness being experiencing the present moment intentionally, and meditation being a practice usually of breathing, maybe visualizing something, maybe not. But so I was basically just breathing and noticing what's happening in my body. And it was called Vipassana, or insight meditation. So I'll just notice what would come up, and sometimes be memories I blocked off that I didn't want, but after I allowed myself to think and feel about it, it was like a pressure was relieved. And I didn't have to have my brain, essentially, I have this picture of my brain blocking stuff out that I didn't want to think or feel, and going like this, like holding this big door shut. I didn't have to do that anymore. So it was relieving, but it's so scary to I mean, there were times where I would have rather have been back in Fallujah inside buildings shooting at people and getting shot at than face these fears. It was, and I, especially doing that fully sober, without any kind of numbing agent.
Yeah.
Finding ways to be around people that would be okay with that, you know, that safety and trust was huge. So for me, part of my story involved, you know, a 12-step recovery group, and I was able to find that. Thankfully, I had another Marine who spoke my language.
Yeah.
Who invited me into it. I mean, forever ever grateful to him for that. And I found that
crayons, doing your 12 steps in crayons.
and then eating them. Yeah. And so that, along with the physical stuff, and one thing that I needed to have done was, so carrying around survivor's guilt. There's a lot of other Marines who are better Marines than me. Why are they dead? Why am I here? There are a lot of those memories, and a lot of that survivor's guilt and the grief was held down by trauma. And so I had to hit the trauma first and work on that. And that involved doing therapy like EMDR. And, you know, maybe Alex could post a link to EMDR and what that is. And, or I'd be happy to talk to people afterwards, but it's essentially a very accessible trauma therapy. Allowing myself to my brain to digest and my body to digest experiences before I could hit the grief. And then hitting the grief was hard because sadness is heavy. But I was fortunate enough to learn that the way I've visualized it, and the way I have approached different unpleasant feelings. I don't say bad feelings, I just say unpleasant ones. You know, there's numbness, there's anger right beneath that, and then beneath that is hurt, sadness, fear, all those other unpleasant ones, regret, everything. But if I'm willing to feel those and notice those and make space for them, below that is just this endless supply of joy, just fulfillment, contentment, purpose. And when someone explained it to me, it felt very like new age, culty. But I was desperate enough to try it. I'm like, it doesn't, you know, I was learning this in a therapy group. And so I was like, I haven't got the pitch to, you know, join some kind of commune yet. So I tried it, and the sadness is such a gift for me, because it's like the gateway to the joy and purpose. And so when I feel the sadness, I'm like, let's go a little deeper. Let's go a little deeper. I miss my friend Todd Godwin, who's, you know, killed July 20th, 2004. Another ginger like me. So I feel that sadness. And then I realize I feel that sadness because just a deep love, deep brotherly love for this guy. And I can connect to that, and that's not gone. That's not gone anywhere. And I can work that out like running. I can work that out on the yoga mat. I can work that out sitting. But the connection to my body is so important, because a lot of times when things would get tough, I would just kind of blank out, dissociate in my mind, go somewhere else. So for me, the benefit of the physical practices of things kept me in my body.
Yeah. Thank you for all of that. Thank you for sharing everything.
Yeah.
I too got the EMDR, so much from EMDR, and you said that you were running, and so tell us, you know, about your Ironman, and, you know, the story of Mr. Flag, and, you know,
yeah,
you carrying,
I'd be happy to. So 2 years into my sober life. This is 2014. I went on a vacation with my family to the Big Island of Hawaii. And I was a person before that just kind of believed in coincidences. But so I was here in this Big Island, Hawaii, and it was beautiful. And just the contrast, I think, of the humongous mountains next to the ocean just made me feel a lot of awe, for the world and the universe. Anyways, this big race was happening, and I was seeing everything. I was seeing everything transpire, people warming up, and they told me it was the Ironman World Championships. Anyways, I watched this happen, and I watched these people doing that, and I had an intense fear and anger about the idea. But I kind of knew that those are like waypoints and guideposts to say, like, this is something that's important to me. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. So I jumped into the triathlon world. So an Ironman triathlon, it's one of the longest. It's the practically speaking, it's the longest distance of triathlon, which is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride. Then you finish it off with a marathon, so 26.2 miles.
Yeah.
Oh, scary, right? And I signed up
scary,
for
but badass.
Yeah, I liked it. I have this fascination with pain, apparently, but I signed up for some shorter distances, and then got to my first full Ironman in Santa Rosa, California. And I had been doing yoga for a little while, and I had this teacher. I don't know if he's listening, but Perry Chatler, he's a special guy, special man for me. He taught me a lot, and one of the things he'd say during our yoga sessions was, let a steady breath be your guide. And so I started this swim for this Ironman, and the swim is this big mass start where they shoot off a cannon, and everybody just jumps in.
Yeah, that's
people
scary.
Are paddling over you and kicking you, and I'm doing this, and I'm not catching my breath. I'm hyperventilating, and then my mind goes, hey buddy, you can't do this for 140.6 miles. What are you doing? And I started recognizing, like, yeah, what am I doing? But suddenly it was just like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Perry's voice just comes in, let a steady breath be your guide. And I was like, all right. That was my use the force, Luke, kind of moment. And I did it, and it worked. And I learned that from doing that practice through yoga, being in my body and breathing. And anyways, I finished the race, 12 hours later. I eventually wanted to, yeah. So, but to back up that for a little bit, I decided that finding purpose is just, after the military, was this huge, difficult journey. But
absolutely,
I was able to connect my endurance events with, wearing a jersey with all my friends who've been killed on it, to honor them and let their families know they weren't forgotten. Part of my big healing process. And then I decided, I approached Ironman, the company, and said, I would like to start something for veterans and Gold Star families and the communities to come together and heal. And so we came up with an idea where I projected this thing where, for the marathon portion of the Ironman, I would carry an American flag with a streamer with this a local service member who'd been killed in action on there, and then have their family at the race and present it to them at the end. You mean symbolic of me carrying the memory forward and sharing that with the community, and allowing the Gold Star family to be there. And so lots of tears, lots of hugs, and just finding the purpose of, like, wow, okay, service. When I thought of like service before, I really thought like it had to be something miserable. Like if I was serving, my mind flashed back to police calling the quad, picking up cigarette butts, standing guard somewhere. And Perry's here. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
But service can be stuff we enjoy.
Absolutely.
And putting a purpose to it, right?
Yeah. Mike, that's amazing. That really is amazing. You're an incredible human. And speaking like continuing to speak our, you know, our family members' name, because that's who they are to us, right? Like they are our brother and sister, without a doubt. To continue to speak their name is, that to me is what they deserve, you know, what we, you know, ought to be doing. And for you to do that, that's incredible. I love that, you know.
Well, can I say one thing about that too? So the triathlon world, it's like, yeah, you're competing against other people, but I'm not beating the fast people. They're finishing a few hours before me. So it's a very individual sport. You know, I'm not doing this on a team. So that being said, though, the community I found with other veterans, reestablishing the connection with my own family, my wife, my children, people in the athletic community, just places where, you know, I found a lot of support. So this post-traumatic growth, I don't think is, well, for me, I could not have achieved it on my own. That's for sure. Like I looked at it this way. So before, my old Marine Corps active duty mindset was, you don't ask for help. You just will yourself through it. You deny all the miserable things you're feeling and accomplish the mission. But then I realized, if I ask for help, that's actually, I'm trying to improve. Just like if I was asking for help, you know, from my squad leader about, you know, better tactics for, you know, clearing a room, you know, or shooting, then I would improve. So it actually became a strength. Finding the community, being vulnerable, and practically being willing to feel a little embarrassed. So if you're willing to feel embarrassed, there's like no limit to what you can do. And I say, like, when I started swimming, because I didn't grow up swimming, I knew how to not drown and I knew how to do survival strokes, but I went to a pool. It was, first of all, the name was intimidating. It was Masters Swimming. I'm like, I'm not a master at swimming. And then I found out it just means like you're older. It's for older people.
Oh, well, that's perfect.
Yeah. But I'm walking in there for my first swim, Jessica. And like, I have goggles and a swimsuit, and I walk in and I pass in the parking lot, not one, but 2 license plate that says US Olympics athlete. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what am I doing here? And so I showed up and I swam in the slow lane, and I listened, and I felt embarrassed, but I didn't give up. And so embarrassment was not the limiting factor.
You learned humility.
Humility. Yeah. And so I was okay to be in my body and feel that, and like make some space for, like, all right, embarrassment and humility can be here, and I can still continue forward. And I know I'm running my mouth a lot, but one thing that has been an overarching theme for me is that I look at what's of value to me. You know, I have goals, but values being, you know, the things you can never do enough of, right? Like spending quality time with a family is not a check in the box. It's, you just keep doing it, you know, or being athletic, or engaging my body. So if I'm connecting to my values and I have a purpose, then it makes it easier to hold those difficult feelings. But instead of waiting for them to go away before I do what's important to me, that's such a limiting thing. So somebody's like, what if, you know, when my therapist said, well, what if you found those things that were important, we write them down, and you do those even when you feel sad? Can you still feel sad and go on a run? I'm like, I guess so. Yeah, you can. It's a beautiful thing. And sometimes I'd cry and run, and that was okay.
Yeah, me too. That's running is cathartic. Showering can be cathartic for me too. Thanks for also you know, pointing out that Well, two things. Thanks for pointing out that you're not, out there coming in number one, although we would love for you to come in number one, right? But
Yeah.
Just pointing out that, like, that's not exactly how you measure success, right?
Right.
But so with me, I had mentioned about, COVID and how it really did a number on me. I wasn't competing in Ironmans, but I myself was doing triathlons, and it kind of set me back, and what it did was teach me a lesson to slow down, and it was something that definitely needed to happen. And for me, one of my responses to trauma, and something that showed up, in my post-traumatic stress, was not sitting down, right? Like, I never wanted to sit still with myself, which was interesting that I came to meditation first before the physical practice, and interesting also why I'm like not a hot yoga person, or like Bikram, or like Ashtanga. And I love yin, which is where you're sitting still, and you're really getting deep into the connective tissue and whatnot, but which is great, but anyhow, now I've been able to slow down, and I've learned how to live life in a different way now. And I've been able to connect to a different audience of military members. What I'm doing right now, I work at the Hudson Valley National Center for Veteran Reintegration, and also in my own private business, I facilitate groups such as like our mindful outdoor cycling group or walking group, and I'm a mindful outdoor guide, and we take small or rather short walks, and we're listening to what's outside, and really observing nature, and tuning into our surroundings, but not being like hyper vigilant,
Right.
And getting back to our community, and it's different than like going out on a hike and like being like, hurry up and, doing it for the cardio, being there with, one another, but also, focusing in on what else is living and what else is around us, and kind of giving thanks to that. So finding, that new sense of like spirituality as well, which is something that for me, we kind of touched on it, the moral injury. I needed that for myself. For me, I needed to find some sense of like God, or, some self-forgiveness and self-compassion. And for me, nature really helped me do that. And within our, I also facilitate PTSD groups, and both combat and non-combat, and we're bringing in elements of equine therapy to that. And by bringing in both, again, nature and animals, there's something about just one veteran communicating with another veteran, and it's like the 12-step programs, right? Just one helping, one veteran helping another veteran, and we're just sitting around kind of talking about, what's going on with us, and kind of what works and what doesn't work. And it can be as simple as like teaching each other how to skip a rock.
I've noticed one thing that we want to leave some time for Q&A. So I mean, I think we have both a lot more. I could say a lot more, and I could talk to you for hours, Jessica. I love this.
So
I,
since we are at the, thank you for bringing that up, Mike, because it's my job to keep time here. But can I ask you guys maybe just if you have any final thoughts or anything that you want to share with our friends on the call here before we take Q&A?
I'll make mine very brief, yeah, Dan. And that is because I've experienced, well, from where I was to now, tremendous amount of growth, thanks to other people and my own efforts too. But I still have really difficult days. It's not, like you said, Pollyanna, kind of like, life is jolly all the time. Today, for example, I'm carrying a lot of heaviness and sadness about some tension in my family. But that's okay. That can be there. I can still participate in something like this and be present and have purpose.
Yeah, I have to agree with Mike that this isn't something that goes away, hearing, a loud, thunderous noise, or getting a jolt from the back, or just some other kind of trigger, but can really startle or stir me up, remind me of something. But grabbing hold of the tools that I continue to put in my basket, and just bringing in and leaning into my community and trusting myself, and reminding myself that everything that I need resides within me. And I've honestly learned all of that from yoga. And what yoga has taught me is that I've had it all along.
Yeah.
It's like one repeats another. It's just amazing. And I'm just super grateful to Veterans Yoga Project. The whole team, I feel, is here today, and they've all supported me when I have been absolutely, within my own chaotic post-traumatic stress, as well as within my growth. So thank you.
Well, I want to express my gratitude to both of you on behalf of Veterans Yoga Project and all the veterans we serve, and everyone on the call today, for you guys to take time out of your schedule and just to share your story. It's to me, it feels like part of that post-traumatic growth process, where we're sort of all helping each other out and learning from each other. So I am very grateful for you both being here. It is currently 4 minutes after the hour, and we have a very hard stop in 10 minutes. So I would like to just invite, if anybody has any particular questions or concerns or observations or riddles for Mike or Jessica, now would be a good time. So thank you, Caitlin. Yes, pointing out, right? Oh yeah, yoga solved all my problems, and now I'm happy every day, right? That whole idea of we have sometimes these expectations of what we're trying to do. Where I love how you put it, Mike, is that what you can carry around the sadness, right? We're human beings. We're supposed to feel sad sometimes, right? We're supposed to get angry sometimes. We're supposed to, right, have the full expression of human experience, and to stay focused on your values and goals anyway. I thought that was a very valuable point, so thank you for that. And nothing else in the chat here except lots of gratitude to you both. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to invite us all just to breathe together for a minute or two, so that we can conclude our practice together. So I'll invite you to sit where you're sitting or be where you are. It's often helpful to sit in a way that allows you to be alert and awake, sitting up straight, and maybe even in a dignified posture, as John Kabat-Zinn likes to say. We find a place where we can sit tall with intention, purposefully paying attention to the sensations of your breath in this moment. without trying to change the breath, without trying to change anything, just allowing yourself to bring all of your attention and all of your awareness to the sensations of your inhale and the sensations of your exhale. And then maybe allowing the breath to deepen a little bit, allowing your next exhale to be a little bit fuller than the previous exhale, maybe gently allowing that belly button to move towards the front of the spine so we can exhale more completely towards empty. And then inviting in a big, full, deep inhale, feeling that three-dimensional expansion through the belly, low back, and side waist, and the rest of the rib cage. And then one of the things we can do is we can allow our exhale to be a little bit longer and slower than our inhale. I know Mike talked about this being one of the tools that has helped him, because we know is that when we make our exhales longer than our inhales, it actually creates the conditions for our nervous system to switch into that more relaxed, alert state, one in which we can more easily connect with one another. So just allowing your breath just to be long, free, and deep with a little bit extra length on that exhale. And without losing that attention to the breath, I invite you to bring your hands to your heart center. And see if you can allow that to bring you to some place that feels like gratitude. And from that place of gratitude, or maybe it's just the idea of a place of gratitude, I'll invite you to acknowledge to yourself one thing in your life that you are grateful for today. I am so grateful for everyone here in attendance. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much